Greetings. My name is Louise Dente, and I welcome you back to another edition of Cultural Caravan. On part one, we were introduced to a dynamic people's preacher, a man who's dedicated over 60 years of his life to community, to struggle, to community and culture. And he talked about the tremendous history which started off many years ago through the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, and also to this fight for human rights, and we were very engaged in that. Now we're at the point where we want to continue our conversation with the distinguished Reverend Herbert Daughtry. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Reverend Daughtry, at our last discussion, you were about talking about the running for president of Jesse Jackson, which you were engaged in, and we were talking about how that run actually laid the foundation for what we get the Obama administration. Talk to us about that.
Right. We were very much involved in the war in Vietnam in 1967. In fact, I was at the Riverside Church when Dr. King made his famous why he opposed the war in Vietnam. So throughout those years, in 1982, I was a part of chairing the National Black Unity Front of organizing over 1 million people coming to New York on the disarmament question, nuclear disarmament. And so across the years, we have been the leader, one of the few black leaders who have been engaged in peace movement. I led a delegation to Iraq during that war, the last delegation, peace delegation to Iraq, an interfaith, interracial group, and made a brief recounting of our experience at the Riverside Church. So tied to the political movement was the peace movement. So when Jesse Jackson decided to run, he and I had been active in the Operation Breadbasket movement, Dr. King's movement. So we became very close. And in fact, one of our visits was to Pope Paul, John Paul, in Rome on the South Africa question. Winnie, I hope you interview my wife later, Winnie Mandela, when Nelson was out of jail, and they had the visit to the USA, Winnie made her first public statement right here at the House of Winnie Mandela, and Nelson became very close across the years. In fact, I was at his funeral with my grandson at the funeral, where only 2 preachers other than South Africa participated in his funeral. And that was Reverend Jesse Jackson and Reverend Dr. Herbert Daughtry. So Jesse's run, and the reason I set the stage that we were such an integral part of that movement and why he came here for the endorsement of black leaders is because we had been struggling for years. So his run, while we did not win the White House, what we did is politicize the nation for people of African ancestry and people who are the so-called minority. People were started running for everything, from dog catcher to city hall. And out of that movement came Dave Jenkins, the 106th mayor of the city of New York and the first black mayor in the city of New York. Isn't that something after all these years? But he was a part of the New York delegation that supported Jesse Jackson. I was a confidant and traveling companion. So in 2008, going on the energy, there came to office a black man by the name of Obama. What is interesting, and I'm very proud to say, out of the movement around our church during the 70s, 80s, all into the 90s, the political scene in New York now, just about all of the people in power, people of African ancestry, cut their teeth here. From the mayor, Eric Adams, who was one of our youth leaders. And he gave me credit for encouraging him to join the police fire force. Tish James, the New York State Attorney General. And I remember her sitting up in the balcony during her student years, writing papers.
When you think about the fact that your role was pivotal to being the springboard for several leaders, of which you said our current Mayor Adams, our Attorney General Tish James, your daughter, who's now the leader of this church, and has taken the mantle of leadership. And I know that it's a big shoes to fill, I'm sure. You've been at the center of a lot of this.
Right.
And in terms of that, how does that make you feel as the center?
Well, now I'm 90. In a couple of months, several months, I'll be 93. I am. It's. There are no words to describe my feeling of joy, of gratitude, of appreciation, of what shall I say? Euphoric, maybe it's the best expression. Just an overall feeling of gratitude to the Almighty, gratitude to my allegiance, my loyalty of Jesus Christ, and to the people. I say to the people, what keeps me going, of course, is God gives to the people the prayers that people pray for me, and the encouragement that the people give to me, the admiration that the people give to me, and the energy that I draw from. Exactly. I heard the mayor say last night, energy, you can't destroy energy, you can only transform it. Exactly. So, and energy can become almost palpable, and that I feel the energy of the people. Sometimes I get tired, and like the song says, sometimes I get tired, sometimes I feel discouraged, but then the Holy Spirit revive my soul again. But when the people give me the hugs, the handshakes, the compliments, you're a legend, you're icons. Can I take your pictures? Can you do it all? And I said, well, listen, I'm honored. I'm honored that you would want me to take a picture. So the question is, I guess I realize most things that people do, they don't live to see the results of. God has allowed me to see the results of organizations we started, still in exist. And I think you were going to mention DB&A, Downtown Brooklyn Neighborhood Alliance. Every time people go to that arena, 16 high rises, the developers were going to build that. And we said, no, you can't build it unless you build it with a view toward giving to the community.
Reverend Daughtry, of the many things that you have been a part of, I think one of the things that I think everyone in this audience could really focus on is the Barkley Center, this beautiful edifice of where many people, thousands, millions of people go each year to watch various sporting arena games, watch various shows. But you were there at the beginning, organizing, ensuring that the community's interest was kept there as the developers there. Tell us about briefly about that struggle and what came out of that.
When we heard about it, I asked one of our elected officials to keep us in the loop. He did not. So we organized a mass movement around that area and delivered to the developers our strength in the community. Then we had a meeting with Bruce Radner, whom I had known. His brother, Michael Radner, had been one of the attorneys that helped me run a lawsuit against one of the major television companies. And so we met with Bruce Radner and his staff, and we laid out a 6-point program. We were late getting there. The church was late. I tried to organize ministers initially when they first heard it. They were reluctant. They had issues. So I had to go and organize the downtown Brooklyn neighborhood alliance with different community people. So we had a meeting with Bruce Ratner, and by now we had developed the ideas that we wanted to event to him, and which we would demand on behalf of the community. And the demands were that there would be, when the arena is built, there would be complimentary tickets for the community, 4 ringside seats, 50 upper bowl seats, and a state-of-the-art arena, a luxury suite. In other words, what rich people have. That is always there for us. Then we said, no, we want some money. We want you to fund those organizations at the base, don't know how to get money, trying to do good stuff out of their pocketbooks and robbing the church treasure. We want to fund them and teach them how to assess funds for their perpetuation. And then we want to be able to use the arena for fundraising and organizing community groups coming together and putting on programs. All the profits would go to the community groups. Mm-hmm. Then we said our community is in a state of bad health, ill health. In the area that the development was going to take place, somebody had suggested the infant mortality rate were comparable to so-called third world countries. And that's one way you know that you gauge the health of a community. The community, by and large, resisted the development. And I understood that because they felt that there were going to be removal, which I was understood totally, and that there were going to be the fumes, the buildings, and the traffic jam was going to create hazard. But I weighed the benefits to the community. Not only that, this thing was already a done deal. Bruce Ratner had already bought the New Jersey Nets for $300 million. So to put out that kind of money, he had to have the okay. So the project was going to be, the question was, what could we get out of the project? And so I broke with leaders in the community and decided that I would support the project if on these grounds or these demands. And that's what happened. But beyond that, I told them that Brooklyn was no longer going to be a quaint little downtown area. This whole downtown Brooklyn was going to look like Manhattan because it's overcrowded over there. So naturally you come across the bridge. And so when you look at Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn, looks like Manhattan. You got all these high rises. We had a chance to set the model of how you deal with corporate America and the clergy, the community really, by exercising our strength and saying, you can't build here unless you meet the demands of the community. And that's what we did at the Barkley Center. So you're right, it will be there forever, and the community will enjoy seeing a game in a luxury suite, you know, and people who ordinarily would not be able to go and sit and will get a feeling of what it means to live at another level.
We're now joined by Reverend Dr. Karen Daughtry. She is the wife of Reverend Herbert Daughtry. Welcome to Cultural Caravan.
Thank you.
You and your husband have been a team for over 60 years. When he first took you on this journey, I'm going to say it that way, what was your impression?
Wow, what am I getting myself into? It was an exciting time, a young woman in my early 20s, just having transformed from what I was to what I am now in Christ. Excited about what the future held. And so we prayed about our relationship, and in short order, I'm not sure if he told you, we knew that we were to be together. And so if that was God's plan, then I'm all in. And that's basically how it's been all along throughout the 61 years. He's God's man and God speaks to him. And when he gets the message, I'm right there. And that's what it's been. Every vision, every adventure, you might say, it's been a wild ride and a good ride through it all. Yeah.
You've raised four children, which one is now the leader of the church. How was it raising children in the, and I'm going to say a dynasty in service of Christ? How was that experience for both of you?
It was an interesting experience and a scary experience because PKs, pastors' kids, live in a fishbowl, and we certainly wanted our children to be normal, quote normal. We wanted them to do what other children do without being scrutinized. So we kind of ran a tight ship, but yet we wanted to know each one of them individually, and each one of them is different. If you know our children, each one of them has their own niche. And I thank God that with the ministry that God gave to him, that I joined on to, we have never had issues with our children. We could see about other people's children in terms of what was happening with them, with the society and so on. But our children were always bringing us honor, bringing us praise. They were always kind of in line with what the family was about. And so it's gratifying now as we look back and we see each one of them in their own space, doing what they all love to do, but yet committed to this ministry. And so I think that's very gratifying as I look at each one of them today.
What message do you have to those couples out there who are trying to navigate, trying to the roles and responsibility? What is the one, if I can ask each of you to tell me what are the key fundamentals for people who are looking at sustaining 60 years or more plus of togetherness?
Hard question. I say find where you belong and strive with all that you can to fulfill that role. Everything is not for everyone. Anything with two heads is deformed. Something is abnormal if there's two heads. So there's got to be one head, and then the others will follow the lead. And I'm not sure how successful we've been over the years because we do have some, as everyone, we do have some differences, some disagreements. But I think at the base, what we both wanted was to be in the perfect will of God, not the permissive will, but the perfect will of God. So if you want to be in the perfect will of God, then you strive to find out where you fit in the perfect will of God and then do that. And I think that would be my answer, to try to be in the center of God's will. Getting married for us was in the center of God's will. Whatever else was an outgrowth of that, the activism, he did what he was to do, and I had a role to play. And of course, I have my own spirit of activism, and we did that. But he understood that was what I was doing, and so it worked. It all folded in together to make us be sitting here 60, almost 2 years later.
What is true for an individual, I think, is true for a family. At some point, what my wife and I had, and we try to think about all the dynamics, but we had a cause bigger than the both of us. And therefore, the children would be raised with a center bigger than the both of us. And that's where the God factor comes in. If for somebody else, it may be civil rights, it may be peace movement. But this universe is built on a recycling program. And those who give are those who get back. Jesus said, he that seeks to save his life shall lose it. He that gives his life, loses his life, for my sake, shall find it. Hard saying, apparently contradictory, but when you think about it, the people who have found a cause to which they give themselves will find themselves. So I think that was the center, is that wherever you find the children, they'll be connected to the church. That was the center, the visible vehicle of the presence of God to which we all gravitated and from which we all drew purpose, direction, and strength.
What is it? There's some people say, "Oh, at this age, you both should be sitting on the beach in the Tahiti." Why aren't you on the beach in Tahiti? What motivates you to get out of your beds each day and fight that fight, despite what people may think you did it all? What motivates you? I'm going to ask you, Queen, and then I'm going to ask you what motivates you.
I'll go back to what he just said. It's the cause. It's the cause to which you have, the cause that you found and to which you've given yourself. That is there. It's not going away, and if anything, it's getting larger as the society becomes further and further away from that cause. So I think that would be the reason we feel, I guess we both feel that we're still needed. And you won't get old as long as you're needed. People don't get, when people feel that there's no longer a need for them, that there's nothing to do, that's when people shrivel up and die. So my grandmother lived to be 105 because she was needed. So in my household, I want to be like my grandmother. She had a cause for which she was living, and she stayed here till 105. And I think that that's the cause is the center. And for us, it's the church, it's Jesus Christ, it's the society that is so needful or needy for voices that will cry out. If you're asking me, I say, remember the shoulders on which you stand. Chancellor Williams, in his great book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, said he asked this question of the old man, whatever happened to the people of Sumer? They forgot their history, the old man said, and they died. So we've got to make sure that we tell our children the struggle. So often, because we've been through so much, people want to make their children's lives easier. So they don't want them to know about when we didn't have food and we didn't have clothing and when we were out of doors. So they don't want their children to go through that. So they spare them, they think, of these details. But we've got to be like in the book that we read, the Bible, when they crossed the Red Sea, the instruction was, put some stones as you cross on dry ground. And when your children ask, what mean these stones, you will be able to tell them what great things God did for you. I think that we've got to tell our children what we've been through so that they can not be living someplace thinking that everything is so wonderful and glorious, and it might be today, but remember where you've come from so that we won't be like the children of Sumer who forgot their history and they died. Thank you. Sir?
Yeah, it's again, I'm reluctant to attempt to add anything to what my wife said. I simply say amen to that. I'll tell you a story. Tupac was a member here of our church. It's Faney. We were very close to the Black Panther Party, and so Faney, his mother, joined the church and brought Sexual, her daughter, and Tupac, and her sister Gloria. And when he got in all this trouble, I used to visit him in jails at Fresh Rikers Island in upstate Clinton. And he used to talk a lot. And one day, as we were talking, he was always writing and talking, you know. So he said, Pastor, you know what? When I want to achieve something, I put it on the wall over my bed. And he said, I will not sleep in the bed. I'll sleep on the floor. I'll sleep in the bathroom. I'll sleep on a couch. But I will not sleep in the bed until I achieve what I put on the wall. And every day I'll spend time looking at what I put on the wall. And I said to him, hey, Pop, man, I knew you were in metaphysics. He said, Pastor, I don't know what you're talking about. What I was talking about was that he had stumbled upon a universal principle, that if you want to achieve something and it becomes your consuming desire, there is that in the universe God has put that will draw it to you or draw you to it. But a rendezvous is inevitable. So to young people, as my wife has indicated, for us, it's God. Put God factor first. If we move that, then what is your cause that to which you will give yourself? Think whatever my wife has indicated, we did not dictate the specific careers that our children were involved in, but whatever they were going to be involved in, they had to have at its center giving, serving. And so we coined the phrase, the Daughtry family was born to achieve, was born to lead, and were born to serve. That is what we taught our family. So to the young people, find a cause to which you can give yourself. And at the center of that, find a cause to which you can enhance others. To the extent that you can enhance others, you can enhance yourself. Save the planet, save the people.
Well, on that note, I just want to say to both of you, you are national treasures to all of us. You are standard bearers. You have given your life and your family devoted to the upliftment of people of African ancestry and humanity. And we thank you, we salute you, and wish you much success. And we want to just use this on behalf of Cultural Caravan, we want to sincerely thank you for joining us, and we look forward to other opportunities to celebrate our history. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much. Thank you. And thank my wife. Whatever have been accomplished, she was there.
If you would like to support these broadcasts, we encourage you to send contributions to P.O. Box 300851, Jamaica, New York 11430. Thank you.